All right, now we are. She's StreamYard. Get your act together. All right. Hey, it's Friday. You know what that means. It's Small Biz Trends Breakdown. I'm Brent Leary, and we gather a few of our small business experts to talk about what happened over the week, what matters, what doesn't. And, the way these shows go is sometimes something comes up that just like takes over the show. So who knows what'll happen? This is why we like doing things unscripted. And I always bring out the Chief Technology Officer of Small Biz Trends, Leland McFarland. Leland, how's things in the Great Pacific Northwest?
They're doing great over here. Nice, sunny, just cool days. It's relaxing.
Yeah, I went from last week I was in Vegas, it was 105 degrees. And then this week I was in San Francisco where I woke up and it was like in the 50s. So, I prefer, I know it's kind of going from one extreme to another, but I kind of like that because you know what? It's fall weather and I get to break out all my Rams fall gear. So I got my Rams vest on to start this season out. So I'm happy about that. I don't know if anybody else is. I know one person who will come on later that probably doesn't care at all. But we'll wait to get to him because we got to say hello to Ivana Taylor first. Hey, Ivana.
Hi, guys. Greetings from sunny Cleveland, Ohio, where we are hanging on for dear life for summer.
Okay. What does that mean? Is it nice like in the 70s or something there?
It's amazing. This weather just could not be any more perfect. It's going to be a great weekend. We are going to get a week of rain, and that's okay. I love all the weather.
She loves all the weather. I like that. And, of course, usually last to the show, but not least. I won't say he's least. He's just last. He is the bold one. Some call him the cold one. He is John Cold Rice Lawson. What the hell is that?
John's outside. I love it. Are you outside or is that a television?
Television.
Yeah, and thanks for showing us all the cookie crumbs that you just left after you eat that big cookie.
Where?
Yeah, we saw it before.
Oh, okay, from before. I'm about to say I cleaned off my shirt.
Yeah, crumbs. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on. I want to start with this. This is a little clip because, we just got the 50 basis points lowering of the interest rates from the Fed. Everybody is kind of like has a thought about that. But I saw this clip on CNBC that I thought might help us kick things off.
After they get there, the higher the probability that we avoid a recession, because to me, it already looks like we're in a small business recession that could easily spread to the rest of the economy, given that that's the foundation of the labor market.
Well, exactly. That's where the hiring comes from. And so this is one area where a bigger rate cut will actually have an immediate effect.
All right. So last week, before all this Fed stuff came out, there was quite a bit of gloom and doom, and a little not knowing whether it's going to be a 25 basis point or a 50 basis point. But it happened. It was 50. The stock market is like at an all-time high. Things don't seem to be like terrible to me. But that one dude said we've already been in a small business recession, and he's thinking it hopes it doesn't spread to an overall. My question to all three of you, does it feel like we're in a small business recession right now?
Bro, I've been saying that for like a year and a half. So
yeah,
talk to somebody else.
Yeah, but it still doesn't feel like we're in a recession to me. But I'm just saying.
Okay, well, what does a recession feel?
Well,
like?
I looked at my investment account, and I'm not feeling like it's a recession right now.
Oh, okay. But your investment account is not a small business, so that's.
Yeah, but I work. I am a small business
recession.
Yeah, I am a small business.
No, you're a solopreneur. It's totally
okay.
different.
I'm a solopreneur.
So when they're talking about small businesses, they're talking about like mom and pop shops. Go down to any strip mall, and you can tell we've been in a recession for a while. I mean, come on, give me a break.
All right.
So
even are we in a small business recession? There's another report that just came out, I think, on Small Biz Trends that small business can't even find people to work. It's too hard to find the people to work. So
I
don't know.
hear that from the mom and pop shops that I engage with. I think we talked about this last week. To most small businesses, whether you're a solopreneur or you're a small business with, let's say, 5-10 employees or something like that, stuff is expensive. While the rate of the price increases has slowed down, the costs keep going up. And they're trying to find people, and they're paying, the people I talk to say that they have increased their wages. But at the same time, I think we're talking about interest rates, which is about borrowing money, isn't it? I'm not like an economist. I'm not an accountant. I don't feel qualified to talk about this. What I do feel qualified to talk about is that the businesses, the small businesses, the solopreneurs in my audience and community really would prefer not to borrow money. I think what would help them, is they want to invest, but that money is kind of hard to come by, right? Because then they got to increase prices and they're cutting costs. I've seen local bakeries. I'm in Cleveland. This is Eastern European country, my friends. And we love getting these little things called kolache. This is like the most decadent, buttery pastry thing that you cannot stop eating once you get your hands on it. It requires a lot of eggs, requires a lot of butter, requires a lot of expensive cream cheese. These cookies used to be like this, and now they like this, and they cost the same. So, I don't know. What I've read is that it's great news for small businesses because they can borrow.
Less expensively they can borrow.
Exactly. However, I feel like that tends to apply more for like medium-sized businesses that are going to, like, manufacturers that are going to want to buy equipment or something like that. I'm not seeing it so much in my space. Leland, how about you?
I could see it helping some small businesses, because if I want to start a salon and I need to buy some space, then it's going to be a lot cheaper. It's going to be a lot more economical for me to be able to buy a place to be able to start setting up some chairs. I could see that, and I could see some borrowing, but to go to your point about like, well, yeah, your portfolio is doing good. And it's like, well, yeah, the big companies are always going to do good. People are always going to go to Walmart. They're always going to go to Amazon. They're always going to shop what they need to shop. Luxuries are going to start going down. And so maybe people are not willing to do the really expensive haircut, but they'll get something a little bit smaller.
Break out the bowl.
They're not going to go down to the farmer's market and spend, twice as much for a scented candle. They're just going to go down to Walmart and pick out the cheap candle off of the shelf, which would hurt more small businesses because they're more niche, they're more artisan, kind of more of a luxury in some cases. So I could see, yes, big business is still doing really good and that helping people's portfolios, but we don't put stocks into small businesses. And that's not really a good index of how well a small business is doing.
So do you feel like, just John says it feels like it. Do you guys feel like it's a small business recession?
I would go for that. If not a recession, then just extreme difficulties.
Kind of stuck in the mud. We're not going anywhere. We're kind of in limbo.
I'd say a slowdown.
I think that the definition of
it's getting better.
So what? All right, wait a minute.
It's getting better.
What? How do you determine whether it's getting better or not? How do you see it getting better?
No, I'm saying the fact of the matter is that the interest rates going down is an indicator that it's getting better. I get it. If you put a 12-inch knife in somebody's back and pull it out 3 inches, it's not like, oh, bro, that feels so much better. So that's where we are.
I don't know. Have you ever tried that? Or
come close enough.
All right.
So teasing. So I'm saying though that I think it's funny that people are saying these things now because it's going down. When it was going up, they didn't say anything about it. We wouldn't even say the words. So
Let me ask
suddenly
you guys
now we're
this.
saying it.
Let me ask you guys this. In the heat of the pandemic, where everybody was buying everything, Amazon, and people were stuck and they had to pay with the supply chain and price increases because it was hard to get stuff. And small businesses doing good at that point. So they didn't benefit from kind of what was going on, that like businesses like Amazon and Zoom and others benefited tremendously during that time. So they didn't benefit then, and you're not seeing them benefit now. So what's the difference from a small business perspective between then and now?
Well, then the small businesses were in effect shut down. I mean, restaurants couldn't open up. People couldn't go into stores during the pandemic. And so, yeah, people had to shop off of Amazon. They had to use Walmart's, the Walmart rapidly came out with, oh, we'll shop for you, and then we'll bring it out to your car. And so a lot of those were utilized, and small businesses just couldn't actually engage unless they were to adapt. I mean, I saw a lot of restaurants adapt and be able to do, car site delivery and stuff like that so that they can get around those regulations, or they worked with Amazon and started selling their products on Amazon. And I think that those people were able to kind of pull through but now they can engage, but they're still facing stiff competition from Amazon. And Amazon's where you go for the necessities. And my thought, small businesses can kind of cater a little bit more to luxury, and not necessarily a necessity, unless you're like the only grocery store in the town or something like that.
How do small businesses get out of this? If we've been in this rut for, John, you've been saying we've been in you've been saying a recession, I think, for like the last couple of years. I don't know how recessions typically don't last that long. So I just never felt like, it almost felt like we were kind of teetering back and forth. And a lot of times it felt like the media was trying to force us into one, to be quite honest, with all the gloom and doom. But how can you be in a sustained recession for this long without terrible things happening? Because it doesn't feel like terrible things have happened in a small business. But you've been saying we've been in a recession for years.
Yeah, I feel like, it's not necessarily, quote, a recession all the time. I think we're at a point where we're feeling a shift in the way small businesses are being run. So there's pressures on certain businesses, and then there's other businesses that are booming right now. So, and even in a recession, some of our greatest businesses have been created. So I don't think we're in this constant, like, okay, we're in a recession, but I don't think the GDP has been moving at the rate that it has in the past. And that's why we are feeling this tension right now in small businesses. If you've got a fixed amount of income and your expenses for gas, grocery, housing goes up, then the amount that you can spend, on other items has to go down. And that's what we're feeling.
It's a mindset thing. It's a mindset thing. And, let me ask this question. And I just really want to talk about, there are the facts and there's numbers and data. And then there's like what John was talking about, how it makes us feel. And sometimes the way we feel about it doesn't match what the numbers are saying. Like we think it should be a certain way, and that causes unhappiness. Thinking things are going to be different than they are. So I remember years and years ago in the Atlantic, and when I say years ago, I'm talking about 1995 because I read this in grad school. The article was called "If the GDP is Up, Why is America Down?" And the interesting thing is that GDP and the numbers that we use to measure the health of the economy are simply a counting of transactions, but not every transaction yields benefit, like that benefit that makes our soul feel good. Not every transaction creates happiness. When people divorce, there are more transactions because now somebody's renting, somebody's buying all the duplicate plates and things. Transactions are going up. GDP is growing in that little microcosm, but happiness is down. So I think that we wish that things were different than they are. And this is a much because recession by definition is a continuing decrease in the way we measure the economy, right? A decline marked by drop in output and a rise in unemployment. People are employed, but people are still unhappy. Unemployment is down, but people are unhappy. Prices are not increasing as fast as they did, I don't know, last year.
I think the overall inflation rate is 2.5% now.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So I think we might need to have a much bigger, deeper conversation. And I think people have gotten a lot smarter since the pandemic. That's another thing that I got to thinking about what you were saying about the pandemic. The pandemic created new habits and new ways of being. And so I don't know what we thought was going to happen after.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think the growth of Walmart and Amazon and Uber has done to the economy of small businesses?
What do I think it's done?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. Let me.
No. Maybe I'm not the best person.
You're the Amazon seller, and I know you talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
So,
let me short side this one. It was a setup question. I mean, that money didn't appear from nowhere. That money came from small businesses that were mom and pops on Main Street that are now being sucked up by these conglomerate type businesses like Amazon's, the Walmarts. I mean, a Walmart moves into a neighborhood and it's already known that a percentage of the small businesses will go out of business immediately because a Walmart hits the neighborhood. Amazon starts delivering packages and what was it? Not the recession, but the COVID hits. And where did that money that Amazon grew during COVID come from? It came from the small businesses and the shopping that people used to do locally that they couldn't do any longer. And it didn't return. That's why we're in.
That's the habit, right? That's the habit. People that weren't shopping online suddenly got to be shopping online. Amazon, God love them.
But didn't the pandemic just accelerate the inevitable? Because that was already taking place. I mean, we saw how things that people used to go to the store to buy, people weren't going to the store to buy. That just accelerated it. Now, John, maybe you could talk a little bit about the actual the small business sellers online and how they are being impacted, because to me, that's the kind of the big story. Isn't there like some kind of like a revolt around how Amazon has so much control? And we talked about this when we were watching Amazon, how many levers Amazon can pull because they control so much. And part of those levers that get pulled impact the sellers that are selling online. Talk a little bit about where they're at right now.
Well, absolutely. I mean, as Amazon has to continue to show growth, part of that growth is by sucking some of the profits out of the sellers on the platform. So before you'd get shown your product just based, let's say, on SEO, now you've got to do advertising to get to the top. So all of a sudden, the first 5 things that you see on Amazon are there because somebody paid for them to be there. Well, who paid? The sellers paid. So that's more money out of their pocket that they've got to put into advertising. And of course, that impacts their profits. If
And
it
that money
impacts their
basically
profits,
comes back to Amazon, right? So
and
they're
Amazon gets
advertising
the money.
on Amazon's platform, which means the money that they make gets funneled back into Amazon
And of
because they
course,
got
it
to have.
raises prices. It raises the price.
But let's extend it even further, because I think it's not the exact same, but there's an equivalent that's going on platforms like YouTube. You remember all these influencers were crying about quitting because they weren't making a lot of money, even though their subscriber bases were growing, but they weren't making all that money they thought they were going to be making because it cost them, money to build the content and get the tags and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, when they start doing that, then the algorithm gets changed and all the stuff that they didn't work. So they're in this constant process of having to rejigger to try to make the money they thought they were going to make, and they never made it. And it feels like it's the big platforms, Amazon's, Google with YouTube. I'm sure stuff is happening on Facebook. It's the platforms have all the power, whether you're an online seller at Amazon or you're a content creator or YouTube, you're fighting. But is that due to the state of the economy, or is that due to the power play that these platforms are making?
All the things.
Little A, little B.
A little bit, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot going on, and there's always a lot going on, in the small business world. But there's a lot of pressures, and that's what I'm saying when I said it getting better. I mean, okay, hey, if the interest rate goes down, then my cost for borrowing will ultimately go down a little bit. And a lot of the inventory that I have to stock, I pay for with credit. So that will go down a little bit. So, I mean, every little bit is starting to help. And the fact that it's trending this way instead of that way, I think will permeate through the small businesses, and we'll start seeing a little bit more relief.
Do you guys do business loans a lot? I mean, do you seek loans to keep things moving?
I try not to.
I try not to as much as possible.
Yeah, me too. I don't think I've ever had a business loan. But once again,
They're called American Express.
all right, so that's like month to month, but
That's different.
yeah, that's month to month.
But it's real. It's real. A lot of people can't get those big
Yeah.
loans.
Oh,
And they
that's
put
true.
that on these shorter cards, shorter loan
Yeah.
periods, and
Yeah.
And they
that
pay just as
0.5%.
much over a shorter amount of time, basically.
they do. But that 0.5% will trickle down to that, and hopefully that'll help.
All right, so let's segue, because I got to ask this question, and I love that we just talked about this, because one of the things that people are hoping, I think, will help them get past some of these things or solve some of these is the dream of AI, the AI dream. If you're able to use AI, it's like the tonic or the elixir back in the 1800s. You got tonsillitis, drink some AI. If you got a broken ankle, throw some AI bomb on your ankle. It'll fix everything. So I had a chance to over the last 2 weeks, went to 2 different events, got a chance to teach to 2 different small businesses. One is they make, I don't know if you ever heard of these Johnny Pops, because they're a small business out of Minnesota. They make these ice cream pops. They call them Johnny Pops. They've been around for 13 years. They started in college, in their dorm room, and now they've been around for about 13, 14 years. They're in 25,000 retail outlets across the country. They're in a couple of different countries, slightly less than 200 employees. I talked to them last week, and then this week I talked to what is it called? Farmer apothecary or something like that. So it's a very small farmer out of San Francisco area. and it's very small independent farmer. So I asked them both about AI. I want to play each of their answers. So I'm going to go with the Johnny Pops first, and then we'll go with the apothecary farmer, which I just love saying that, apothecary farmer. Interesting. All right, so Johnny Pops first.
Very focused on ways we can, yes, scale our kind of human capital resources, but also deploy technologies that allow us to scale efficiently. And we certainly see that AI has and will continue to have an important role to play in making that possible, so that our team members can be working on value add work, and as much of it as we can automate with the basic day-to-day mundane components with AI or other automation and integration technologies has always been our inclination, and AI is just the next wave and frontier of that.
So they manufacture those pops in Minnesota. All right, here's the farmer on AI.
AI, what does it mean to you, and what do you think it'll mean to your business?
Oh man, I'm like the worst person to ask that to. You're asking a farmer.
I know. I've never had an opportunity to ask a farmer. I would love to know if AI is even a thing to you as a farmer.
AI doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay.
It probably should. It's been something that my younger staff members definitely are like, let's try this out.
Okay.
And at 42 years old, I'm like the old curmudgeon that like is not as savvy as they are.
That got tears of socks over in that.
So it's something we're looking forward to kind of like getting into. Okay. It just hasn't quite happened yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, and now these are two radically different small businesses, but they're not tech, they're not in the high tech field. One's manufacturing ice cream pops and the other one's a farmer, apothecary. Two radically different answers. If you think of like the mainstream small business, the main street small business, the ones kind of the mom and pops, which are the mom and pops closer to right now? The farmer who is like, I really don't know much about it. I got some young folks who are talking to me about it, or the ice cream pop manufacturer who is like talking about ways that they can streamline and automate as much as they can with AI. Where are most traditional small businesses at? Are they the apothecary or with the ice cream folks when it comes to AI?
Okay, hold on. You see, I had to turn my screen around. All right.
Oh God,
Because
is this going to be a
as you
pitch
see-
for you now?
No, but I'm here teaching small businesses about AI. So I'm in the lunch
So I'm
break
setting you up
right
I'm
now.
setting you up.
Not really, but I
I'm
just had
setting
to say, this is
All right,
something I do every week. Next
All
week
right.
I go to New York and I'll be speaking in front of small businesses for 2 days again. So, I mean, this is, AI and small business. Most of them have no idea. It's just a buzzword to them at this point.
So
and then
at
once
this
you
point,
open their eyes to what the possibilities are, they start thinking about how I can actually apply this to my popsicle business or to my farming business.
but right now, you would say the majority, maybe dare I say the vast majority, are in the I don't know, I really don't care.
It's still a buzzword
Okay.
to the vast majority.
Agreed.
I agree. I would say that until it becomes integrated into the tools that they use on a daily basis and it becomes very easy and just natural to use, it's not going to be a big presence in their lives. I'm thinking of like the electrician or the plumber. My wife and I, we go to a tea shop because my wife loves tea, and it's a small business owned by a mother and daughter combo. I would be interested in how they could use AI to kind of like further their business. Besides, what I would love to see is like more with social media, using AI to actually kind of automate social media in a more meaningful way. That would, I would say, be very handy to a small business instead of them having to manage their own social media. But just like people who are just working with the average customer that just comes in off of the street, I can't see how a lot of the AI that's out right now could actually help them pivot their business in a meaningful and impactful way.
You said the most important 2 words, and that's use cases. They need ideas and examples. In fact, when we were, might have been my first Zoholics or something, and I met a farmer. AI was like not a thing exactly. It
How
was
long ago was that? Roughly?
It was about a few years, like, I don't know, before the pandemic, the year before the
2019?
pandemic.
So we're talking 5 years. now.
19, right?
Yeah.
I interviewed this farmer, and what he had done, I'll give you the end result. The end result that wasn't AI. The end result that his work with Zoho and the platform was able to do at that time was literally say, oh, you know how you planted soybeans in plot 8? Soybeans need to go in plot 5, and corn needs to go in plot 12. So what he was doing is he was using the Zoho platform to gather all kinds of data. And then at that time, I don't know if Zia was introduced yet, like the very, very beginnings were being introduced. Yeah. And he was saying how, because he had fed all that data in there, it took him about a year, right, to get enough data in there. It was able to give him the predictive information that he needed that really helped improve his business. That has stayed with me. Obviously, it was a long time ago. But I think the case studies and showing them, and I teach some AI classes with SCORE, and I have found that people simply need ideas. They don't understand how this can improve their lives. But I will tell you another thing that I've noticed, especially since we had our session last week, I've gotten into a lot of conversations with people about being sold expensive things based on buzzwords. So they don't know what certain marketing terminology means. They don't know. They've just heard the buzzwords. And if the salespeople are saying that those buzzwords are in there, they're like, oh, I can get me some of that. And the next thing you know, like we were talking about, they're paying 300% more for something that they really need to. So, yeah, I'm even concerned about the integrations. I've been so unhappy with what I have seen people doing with integrations is completely, utterly useless.
All right, let me ask you guys this, because you guys have a lot of expertise and knowledge and firsthand usage of a lot of these AI tools. But there's only so much individuals can do. There's even so much organizations like SCORE can do. Do you think the reason why more small businesses are not taking advantage of some of these tools and services in the way that will actually impact their business? Do you have to lay some of the feet of the blame at these technology vendors who are creating the technology, but aren't educating enough of the small businesses on how to use them, why to use them, the use cases, that will allow them to understand how this could really impact their businesses at the most optimal?
They don't know. How can you teach it to somebody?
So you're saying the vendors
know?
don't know that yet?
No, they don't run small businesses. They don't know what we have to do every day.
Yeah, but they service the tools, the platforms that small businesses use. They create. So that's why I was asking the question, what percentage of the, and I'm using blame, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but what percentage of the blame goes to vendors for small businesses not understanding what AI is or how it can impact their business, or the ways that it could really impact them the most, or they get the most ROI, immediate ROI? How much of the kind of the unknown is due to vendors not stepping in? Hey, they'll sell you the platform, but they won't really tell you what it's really for and how to best use it and the best ways
I'm saying they
help you.
Don't know.
And I'm saying the small businesses don't know. The vendors don't know, and the small business owners don't know. Look at our conversation last week when we were talking about, was that last week that we did Zoho Analytics?
I think
the week
so.
before.
Yeah.
Or the week before. So basically, let's just talk about Zoho Analytics for just a brief moment. right? In order to get the most use out of this super powerful platform, you need to be tracking data, different kinds of data. This data lives in different platforms. Oh, and oh, by the way, you need to know what you want to see at the end. That presumes and assumes that you know what data you need. And like you even know what decision you need to make, because most businesses I know don't even know how to make decisions or what decisions they need to make. Otherwise, they would do the research and they would find these things, blah, blah, blah. Nobody knows. And this is like when the web first happened. Remember, they were like static websites, and then there were websites with lots of movement, and like it really, then we took all the different ways that you can monetize your business from a website. And that's kind of where we are with AI. I don't think anybody knows.
So let me then rephrase the question. What percentage of blame goes to the individual small business, the technology vendors who are creating the platforms? I don't know, the score kind of organizations that are out, because there's a definite disconnect going on here somewhere.
No, there's not. No, I disagree.
Oh my God, there's no disconnect at all. No disconnect at all.
Well, you're not going to like what I'm going to say.
I typically don't, so go ahead and say it.
Okay, I mean, even you talking right now, you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, I usually don't like what you say, and you just
okay.
Point, so
yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying. I mean,
I don't know what I'm talking about because I asked the question about where does the blame go?
No,
because there's let's face it, the situation right now is not working.
No, I'm just talking about this is an emerging technology.
Right.
It's only been around for 2 years. It's very, very advanced technology.
Generative
and
AI.
for us to assume that all of a sudden we've got these drones out here of people that are actually educated enough on what's actually happening and how it can actually be applied to all of these different small businesses and what we do in these different small businesses. It's just, that's not realistic. We can't point finger blame somewhere because there's not some sort of
that's why I didn't like
that we need to have.
Term. I was using the term blame because I couldn't think of a better term, but there are certain things that responsibilities, maybe, I don't know, that have to be laid because there's still a disconnect. You got some super smart people that are so far ahead of the curve that you can't include them in the normal kind of equation. They're like the guy that created the engineer that created all the fake music and fake music listeners to the tune of scamming $10 million from all the different servers. I mean, you got to take that guy out of the equation. He's not normal.
Do you really?
Yeah, he's not normal. Are you kidding me?
I think he's pretty normal.
No, he's not normal.
Well, I'm saying in terms of his understanding of what.
No, he's way ahead of the pack. Come on, if everybody would be doing it, if he could do it, then right. If it was that easy.
It is that easy. That's the thing. It is that easy.
Why? Okay, then I'm going to have to flip the script. Why then are all the folks that we've just spent the last 30 minutes talking about so disconnected and so not getting it and so not using it like this person who, well, by the way, he's going to jail apparently, but he is using it to a way that most people, even Spotify, Amazon Music, all these other services were like fooled for years. So I can't think that you can say this guy is representative of the masses.
I'm just saying it's a tool. He figured out how to use it in a unique way.
I think that when it comes to small business owners, it's a time commitment. It's like when even I was talking about that farmer, it took him a year to gather the data. He knew the questions and stuff like that needed to be put into analytics to be able to get the results that he needed. And it's a big time commitment at this moment to be able to learn and be able to utilize it. And there's that risk of, well, what if I put in all this time, all this effort, I spend a lot of money on it or a little bit of money, and nothing comes of it. And I just wasted 100 hours, 200 hours that I could have put towards my business and growing it in another way. And then there's also routine too. I've always done it this way. Why do I need a new way to do it? I've always handwritten all my invoices and mailed it. Why do I need to have an invoice software? You know,
I don't know, guys. We are all old enough. We have lived through this, saw the movie, wrote the movie, bought the t-shirt. This is like the third time we are going through this. I remember people saying, I don't know, this internet thing, this is stupid. And then in 2000, when everything broke, you know, while I was sitting there going, how do you raise $1 billion without like charging for something? Like, how do you give something away for free? And like, how does that work? But needless to say, you can't function without a computer. You can't function without the internet. You can't have a business by and likely without some type of online presence. And today and tomorrow, you can't afford, like I learned how to use a spreadsheet like when I was in college. Oh my God, I'm so glad I did. Because if I had to learn to use a spreadsheet at 40, I never would have got it. This is a new technology we have to learn how to use and try. And I can even feel myself slipping. I was all over the original Chat GPT. Now there's a new version that requires like slightly different prompts. You got to learn how to prompt again. And I'm feeling
actually, you got to unlearn. You got to unlearn.
Yeah, unlearn. Yes, you have to unlearn. So now I'm like pissed off because like I really cracked the code on the original, but now I have to do it differently. And it's literally taking me just as long. And I'm feeling that desire to master it slip. And I'm just telling you what's in my head, even though I will persevere. So I can just imagine how small business owners are feeling if your website is crappy, you haven't really gotten on social media, and now you're layering on AI. They never learned the web, they never learned social media, and now they're supposed to learn this AI thing. Are you kidding me? I think there's a lot of obstacles and a lot of barrier to entry. It's going to be challenging. I'm back to what Leland said. It's going to have to be done for you somehow.
So
like
what we're going to do? Oh, go ahead, Leland.
Well, I was going to say, like with QuickBooks, and I talked with a guy at Zoho, and they integrate AI into like receipt reading. It's a smaller AI. It's a type of AI though, because it's got to learn to read receipts and stuff like that. Where's going to be the name? Where's going to be the amounts? It's AI that's used in it. It's something that the common person doesn't know that it's AI, but when I pull out my phone and I get a receipt and I click it, AI reads the receipt and it puts it into my QuickBooks. Zoho Billing does it too. But that's the kind of AI that I could see people using. AI that they don't know is AI, and it just works. It's integrated, and I don't have to learn anything. All I have to do is point and click.
So, a year from now, because things have changed a lot over this last year. I mean, I was just at these two conferences. I remember at the beginning of the year, everybody was talking about chatbots and co-pilots. Now it's AI assistants and agents, and there's a difference. And so a lot happens in the span of 9 months, let alone a year or 2 years. And if these folks are already behind the 8 ball, you know, now a year from now, how are they going to even be on the pool table?
No, it's not that kind of ball game.
What kind of ball game is it?
I mean, it's the kind of ball game where every year it gets easier and easier and less out front and in the background. So it's not like, hey, I got to learn how to code in this language, and then later on, I'm going to have to build on that. It goes the other way around. Just like she was saying, she learned how to master prompting, and now you got to unlearn prompting. So before you used to put in these long prompts to get everything out, and the new 01 version, it's like we need short prompts, and don't tell it everything because it thinks for itself. So you don't have to do all the thinking.
Yeah, that's where these agents are coming in.
Yeah, and then the agents are going to actually be able to use other tools and won't need you to feed it stuff. So
Yeah,
I mean,
they reason, right? Agents reason. That's one of the big differences
absolutely.
between co-pilots and agents.
So,
They
but I
actually
mean,
start thinking.
once it starts doing more of the thinking, more of the reasoning, it needs less and less human input. So you're not going to get left behind this time.
Eh, we always get left behind, it feels like.
Well,
Right?
pretty much, yeah.
I mean,
You're
that's
going to be
what
so, actually what it's going to be is going to be that, the exponential curve. You're going to be so left behind that it doesn't even matter at the point, it's just none of us going to catch up.
I hate to end this conversation because do we feel better about things after this? I mean,
Are we leaving our people happier on a Friday afternoon? Are they going to be ready for happy hour? Or are they going to be like,
they're going to be ready for
Lord.
happy hour, right? Because they're going to be drinking more than ever.
They'll be drinking. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
It feels like there's some sort of a connection between the economy and all the stuff we just talked about with AI and autonomous entities and autonomous behaviors and all that kind of stuff. But if we're not able to make that connection, we're not able to really benefit from all this stuff, and we'll still be feeling this way like the past 2 years apparently, which I think is terrible, a terrible situation to be in. How do we get out of that situation?
I got a simple solution. You got to stop thinking about where you're at and solving problems of where you're at. You got to, in school, we learned this and they called it future search, right? If you do future search, which means you declare a future way of being, right? Like that farmer, for example, that farmer had a vision. I don't want to have to think about where I'm going to plant what crop. I want the computer to tell me where I'm going to plant my crop.
Yep.
Right. So he went from there and then he was like, well, if I wanted that, I have to go back. I have to go back. If he had started from this is where I plant my crops, that would be a different solution. So future search is about, and this is what I'm advocating for small business owners to do. I'm not just talking about visioning. I'm talking about practical use cases. What would you want for your customer? What desired outcome do you want to deliver? And I mean, truly vision. Like, how do I deliver it with 100% guaranteed result? How, if getting their result were to be immediate in a vacuum, how close can I get my product or service to deliver that result immediately? So if you're thinking about the core concepts and using those core concepts from a visioning perspective, and you keep asking those questions and keep thinking about what data do I need to make this happen? What do I need to do to make that happen? Suddenly, these use cases will become intuitively obvious to you. And when you're looking for tools, you'll know what questions to ask because you know where you're going. Right? If I'm going to California and I'm in Cleveland, I'm like, I need to head west. Is this going west? Same thing. Throw the ball. Who wants it?
I don't know. I think
I left you speechless. I didn't mean to leave.
No,
I can't believe.
No, I think, because we're coming up close to time here. I'll just throw this out. Just a question. How long do you think it will take before I'm not going to say all small business, but like kind of a general level of small businesses will start feeling better about the business they're in and the way that they're operating and what are they getting out of it? Because it feels like if and I'm going off of Colder Ice, because he has been saying he's been hearing from the people he talks with and mentors and teaches this feeling of recession for the last couple of years. What's it going to take to get out of that? What's it going to take, even if it's a recession of feelings, like Evena was saying? Don't you want to feel good about, because I have this sneaky suspicion that there are people that are doing pretty good financially, but just don't feel good about it or don't feel good enough about it. And of course, there are people that are hurting. There's always that case. But when do people start feeling better about their business? Because it feels like it has been a couple of years at least since we've been going through this.
I think it's going to take a while because even though interest rates have gone down, the cost ratios for things, people's incomes, what they're making isn't matching what inflation has gotten. And once those levels start kind of like balancing out, and it's going to take a couple of years, it's going to take quite a while for things to just level out. You're going to start seeing normalization. I mean, there have been countries that went through horrific. I think Japan was one that it's just like their inflation years
They went through like 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah, it was horrible, and it took a while, but now they're thriving. And yeah, you got the yen, which it was a couple of yen for this and that back before inflation, and now it's like thousands and thousands of yen, but it all leveled out. It will take time, and hopefully inflation doesn't kick back up again to just exacerbate it, but it'll eventually happen. But unfortunately, it's a time thing, I think.
Even up?
John? Oh, me?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, mine's so short.
Go ahead, John.
November 6th.
Oh God.
Yeah, you can't keep.
You think that cures?
It's not that, but I mean, we've been pumping in a lot of negativity, and there will be some. We're exhausted, and hopefully, the day after, the negative will stop, and we'll move to something better. Oh, leave it open.
Okay, even a.
Well, I think it's going to take a lot longer, and I think I tend to go with Leland on this one, and that is people have to have that feeling, like the percentages, right, of our costs, money out versus money coming in. You have to know that, like, I can buy a house, I can go on vacation, I can feed my family, like a couple, how they say it's not about the money until your basics are covered. And right now, I don't think small business owners' basics are covered. I don't think their families feel secure. And I don't think that's going to happen until honestly, I don't know if it matters what administration is in play, because there are so many infrastructural things that need to change in order for people to have that feeling again. Because when people talk about when did we feel good, or at least when did some people feel good, that was when one person could work, you could own a home, you could start a business, you could send your kids to school, you had childcare you could afford. There was like some in our minds fantasy life about when things were good and comfortable and you could afford to take that risk. And
That's
I don't
just
know.
that's just called rose-colored glasses. Everything looks great in the rear view mirror.
In the rear view mirror, and for some people,
we were struggling on something. There's always struggle.
We need to have that feel, but we need to have that, whatever that fantasy is, we have to have some. I think that's missing today, because how do you explain the economic numbers looking good or great or the best that they've ever been, or like whatever words people want to use to describe it, and yet people going around saying the economy sucks and I feel negative and I feel terrible. This is kind of what, like John was saying, what all of us have been saying. Somehow we need to get to some kind of parity between reality and what's possible with this reality that we can improve upon.
Yeah. So let me just ask you guys personally, how do you feel personally about where you are with you and your business?
I think the future looks bright.
I'm
really excited. I'm excited, but I always keep a positive attitude. Unfortunately, my lunch break is over.
Okay. Well, see you later. See you at 5.
Have a good speech.
Yeah. Say some words, whatever. Evano, how do you feel about where you and your business are right now?
I'm feeling really good. I'm loving where the AI is going. It's really helped me out. Needs a lot of guidance, but I'm pretty excited because I get to talk to other small businesses and help them out too, and take them along for the ride, which is great.
Leland?
Yeah. I still think within my industry, it's the ads, and the ads, from what I've seen, have still not recovered. And to me, I look at that and I go, if businesses, and it's typically big businesses, aren't spending money on ads, that still gives me a little bit of a hesitation, as the economy as a whole. It means that big businesses who have access to billions of dollars in market analysis are going, yeah, let's hold back a little bit. They're not sure, so I'm still a little hesitant.
You know what? I can agree with that to a certain extent too, because I talk to a lot of tech vendors, and you're seeing layoffs, and you're seeing budgets tightened, and that does have a ripple effect. So
I think Intel just announced 15,000.
Jesus, 15,000! Wow, yeah, that's pretty significant.
And I just saw a video about UPS implementing AI. And they're talking about, it's just a matter of time before they're replacing the people that are, like, let's say, for example, putting packages into the vans, like inside of like certain workflows that they're working on optimizing. Management super excited. Employees not so excited.
Yep. Yeah, I think we might be in this same situation for a little bit until we figure out how to leverage this stuff effectively. I think it might take a while, but I do think we'll get there. I'm actually a little bit more optimistic, even with some of the stuff that's going on now, because I think we've been in this malaise for kind of a long time, and you got to break out of it at some point, right? I mean, you got to break out of it at some point. So
starts here first. So, entrepreneurs are an optimistic bunch. We always have that to look forward to.
By the way, Pei King said, "Well said, Evana."
Thank you, Pei King.
I like that name, Pei King.
I do too.
All right. So, man, once again, we have this list of things we kind of thought
just
we
keep
talked
it
about.
going, keep the list and bring it back up. I mean, a lot of these things are newsworthy for a while.
Yeah. But one real quick, Leland, maybe you could talk a little bit about, because it kind of ties into our Canva theme. You wrote about, it was in Small Business Trends this week, about what Adobe is doing with Adobe Express that may be welcoming Canva people onto their platform.
Yeah, and they have a special going on right now. So they added in a whole bunch of tools, and Adobe Teams is sitting at right now, I think $50 per user for Teams, and instead of the $100 per user, and that's a yearly rate, which is pretty competitive for against Canva. And you get a lot of the Adobe tools that come along with it. I think Firefly was one of them, but some basic editing of images and make flyers, that kind of stuff. So they saw what Canva did and went, wow, yeah, let's try this.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that they did, because I'm still mad at Canva, and I'm not even a user of it. Yeah, just a mere
burning hatred.
I know. I'm not, and it's not going to make me want to use it again, going in the future. So anyway, all right. Well, that's a positive note we can end on. That's a good thing. So week 6.
Here's a positive note, Brent.
Oh, another positive. Okay.
Here's another positive note. It is September. Kids are going back to school. And this time of year, everyone has that, that clean slate feeling that you have when a new year starts. This is actually clean slate feeling season.
Is that a thing?
It is a thing.
I didn't know that.
It is a thing. So back to school is one of those, right? Leland, you still have kids in school that are type of school kids, right? So it's like it's a blank slate opportunity to start fresh.
Usually they come home with all sorts of colds and flus
because it's back to school time. But I
because
don't know.
It's back to school and they share everything.
Okay, that's the positive note we're ending on there. All righty then. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this show. I always enjoy the conversation. It's always great getting a chance to talk about important stuff with important folks and important friends. And I consider all of you guys, even the cold one, the bold one, friend and all that. So we hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have any suggestions or recommendations, leave them in the comments here. We're very hoping that we get some from you. PayPal, PayKings. If you have something, please leave it there. If there's a topic you want us to talk about for next week, let us know that too. We may be able to fit that in. But in the meantime, goodbye to Ivana, goodbye to Leland. We will see you next Friday. I think I'll be home. I hope I'll be home. There's no place like home.
We'll see who you'll see next Friday.
Yeah, who knows? It might be 4 other people. I don't know. We'll see. But come back and check us out. Thanks.